All of 2023, I broke my ankle in a major way. I had never broken a bone before, and now I was looking at an expensive surgery, hardware in my body, months of PT, and a year of recovery. It was such an epic break, and yet the way I managed to do it was so lame. How did it happen? People would ask, expecting a great story. I slipped on some wet leaves. Yes, it was a letdown for them and for me. It really bothered me that such a defining and challenging moment in my life was brought about by such a simple and quite literal misstep. So what's a girl to do? Embrace a lie and spin an elaborate yarn about daring adventures in my 40s? After all, it'd be a lot cooler if I broke my ankle climbing a mountain, ziplining through the jungle, or even wrestling a wild animal. But I didn't. And pretending like I did, it just isn't me. I am a storyteller, though. I love hearing a good story almost as much as I love telling one. So that's probably why the lame truth of slipping on leaves really bothers me so much. I decided to change the narrative, to look at this whole messy life experience with a bit of creative flair and see what I could come up with. The way I broke my ankle, the inciting incident, may not be thrilling, but that doesn't mean the whole experience can't still be a great story, with ups and downs, heroes and villains, and of course, lessons learned. First, I had to identify my characters. The villain of my story was pretty obvious, the wet leaves. But I was the wet leaves. I was surprised by the heroes, so I really shouldn't have been. From my front row view on the couch, I watched my kids rise to the occasion of taking care of their mom, taking turns bringing me snacks and blankets, doing extra chores around the house, and flexing their empathy muscles big time. My husband picked me up when I fell, literally, because I was really bad on crutches, so this happened quite a bit, and I screamed every time. He also sympathized when I complained about how impossible this whole experience was, and championed me to buck up when my complaining turned self-pity, which it definitely did sometimes. Side note, he also managed to keep me laughing in the ER while we waited hours for them to set my ankle, and I'll tell you that hurt a lot. I realized that my story also had a large supporting cast. Friends and family brought meals, chauffeured my kids around, provided laughs, company, and encouragement. For the first time in a long time, I had to be vulnerable and let others take care of me, which brings me to the lessons I learned. Number one, ask for help, really. Like most things, asking for help gets easier with practice. I learned that in my most overwhelming moments, leaning on others is what works best. And in all honesty, I'm still working at it. If you struggle with this one too, here's a tip. Look at accepting help from others as a service you're doing for them. Watching your loved ones feel helpless isn't easy either, so do them a favor and accept the casserole. You'll both feel better. Number two, celebrate progress. I learned to find joy in the big milestones and small accomplishments alike, because if I waited to celebrate until I was completely healed, I wouldn't have made it through with my sense of humor and sanity mostly intact. And number three, we can do hard things. I tell my kids this one all the time, and they usually fight me on it, but now I'm living proof, so they're not allowed to argue anymore. Whatever the challenge, if you take a moment to look at the big picture, celebrate the progress, and lean on your community, you can accomplish almost anything. It's been a year since that epic break, and now, when I think about my ankle injury, I smirk at the wet leaves, because when it comes down to it, they're just the prelude to a much cooler story. The next time you're facing a challenging moment in your life, I hope you'll remember that no matter the circumstance, you are the author of your own story. So, how are you going to tell it?